Hi, good morning, all. Welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to discuss accounts and budgets. Hi, my name is Rod Kiles, and I am the manager of Concordia Technology Solutions. I've been with the company for lots and lots of years now. I'm at the point where I no longer say how many years I've been here. I'm just saying I've been here for a while. It's really been great. It's been a blessing to be here, and it's nice to be able to serve churches day in and day out. Really appreciate the opportunity. Joining me today is Kimberly Moon, Miss Moon. She is relatively new to our team, but she is a software support technician, and some of you may have been in contact with her. So she's also our field testing coordinator. So she's been with us along this journey as we've kind of gone from 8.8 to 9.0. So we've kind of worked through this whole thing. We've gone through field testing, and the software is now released and it's out. So exciting. The agenda for today. So we're going to have an outline. We're going to go through our discussion as we normally do. Then we're going to have a question and answer session. I decided to cut out the quiz. So we're not going to have a quiz during these 4 webinars, but we're just going to kind of go through and discuss. These are all brand new, so I set the time between 60 and 90 minutes. Give everybody a chance to go through and learn the new features. This is for more than just the new software, though. So we're going to run through some of the basics just to make sure we're all on the same page. There are some paradigm changes, and I don't want those to get lost. So runtime is 60 to 90 minutes. We're going to talk about the new release. So there are some little nuances that we should discuss. Of course, there's a navigation change that we've been seeing through the different modules, but we're going to discuss that. Then we're going to run through a few of the fund-based accounting principles because they're just simply important. There's the account structure. That hasn't changed, it's still the same. So we've kept quite a few things the same. We're going to talk about account grouping for just a minute or so. We'll go through the account types, show you how to add in accounts, and how to kind of modify those accounts if need be. We'll also talk about budgets, how to create those, how to do a mass import of budgets, and we're going to talk about the chart of accounts report. So after you've gone through all this work with chart of accounts and the new software, you probably want to see a list of those. So the first day, these are the topics that we're going to discuss. Okay, I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited as well. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get going. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to switch screens and I'm going to pull up Shepherd Staff. So I have Shepherd Staff set to where it is right at the point to where you've upgraded. Now, when it comes to installing the new version, there are some changes that we just simply had to make. So when you're redesigning the software, you have to add fields into the database. This means that there's a database structure change. We write all new queries. We just make changes. It's not only interface, but there's also behind the scenes stuff that happens as well. So whenever you decide to upgrade, we're going to ask you to back up. A second thing is we are also going to want you to make a list of the reports that you use in the software. So your old reports libraries are not going to come forward. So please review your reports before you update and upgrade. And also, whenever you get ready to upgrade, coordinate with your team. Just simply make sure that everybody understands that today you're upgrading. These things are going to change. And things are going to be a little bit different. We have a whole bunch of articles out on our Help Center. Plus, you'll have these videos that talk to different nuances. They also talk about finance, but they also talk to the changes as well. So you'll click Continue. It'll take it a few moments to make those changes to your database, and then you'll be upgraded at that point in time. So just a few seconds there. Now, I am using a sample database, so I just want to mention that. It's fake data that looks pretty close to real data, but there are some little nuances with the data as well. So they won't be 100% real, but it's in there. So once your database has been upgraded, you'll click OK, and then it'll pull up the software. Now we're familiar with this login screen. It's been this way for several years now, and you'll want to periodically check for updates. So you'll just click check for updates, and that will allow you to check for updates. So I'll go sysadmin and password. I'll go ahead and log in. We've released several feature packs along the way. So whenever, I'm going to stop here just for a second and answer Marcia's question. And hi, Marcia. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly, but she says this just updates finance, right? So only finance reports would be lost. Great question. So I'm going to say yes and no. So we did make some tweaks to other modules as well. Yes to the part about just the finance reports being lost. So it's just minor tweaks to membership, attendance, contributions, and scheduler. Everything else is all finance. So when you log in, you'll see your main menu bar here across the top, and then you'll see these icons. Everything is now encapsulated within one module, one executable. So everything's running from the same place. And just like you've seen before in the other parts of the software, it's going to look where it has, it's going to look like this. It's going to be inside of this little window. Let me move this window over here. Move this over here. There we go. So it'll have kind of like this upside down L shape. The main menu items will be across the top, and then the main tabs will be across the top, and then the sub tabs will run down the left-hand side. And we've pulled things forward and kind of just went through the process of vetting everything to see if it would actually make it into this release. So the majority of the items made it. There's only a handful that didn't, and as people release and comment, we'll go through and we'll vet those ideas again. But we'll also, when we're talking about reports, which is probably one of the biggest changes, talk about reports. We'll walk you through how to generate your reports as well. So that's on Wednesdays when we talk about reports. So we grouped everything together: activity, accounts, receivables, plan, analyze, other reports, and tools and settings. So windows that would have been in these areas are now gathered together underneath these tabs, and you'll be able to see your subtabs here. So we have activities first, and we group those together. We've also made some changes to the way that, or the way we think about transactions, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow in Tuesday's training. But payments, receipts, and journal entry. So there's a little bit of change there. But then there's accounts and there's receivables. So accounts is going to show you all of your accounts. We'll talk about books and funds as well. Then there's receivable, which are your accounts receivables. And then there's plan analyze. Now, plan analyze is a kind of like a new concept that we're working through. So we put budgeting, which is part of planning. We've added in a thing called period analysis. We have activity search, and we also have ledger line search. So there's some power that we've added to this analyze part of the software. There's also other reports. So just like we did in all of the other modules, we've taken all of our reports and we put them into our other reports area. Now, when it comes to reporting, we're kind of changing the paradigm just a little bit. So we'll have your reports that are literally kind of like your hard-coded reports. But then we also have the views, like when you go to activity and payments, all of your views are reports as well. So underneath other reports, you'll see your reports, and then there'll be some reports that are now generated through the different views within the software. Those are going to have the 2 asterisks by them, and they'll say, okay, well, click here, and then that'll jump you over to a view or jump you to another report to be able to find that report that you're looking for. Then there's tools and settings. So all of the tools and settings that are only related to the finance module will be grouped together underneath tools and settings. So you'll be able to access them here. Bank account reconciliation, our cleanup tools, all those are located here. Then on the right-hand side is going to be our action panel, where you can select predefined actions. You can star those so that you can access those quickly. Those will fall underneath My Actions. You can also save your views and save your reports. And we'll be working through quite a bit of that over the next 4 days. So I'm going to collapse my favorites panel, but I'll open it back up here. And I'm going to maximize this window so that it fits here into my screen. So let's go back to my PowerPoint slide here for a minute and just kind of go over some nuances. I did talk about before upgrading. Please back up, even though the utility does back up for you, please make a backup. Document your report settings. When I say that they are gone, they are gone, but you can recreate them and coordinate with your team. So accounting principles, we're talking about finance here, we're talking about accounting, and there are a handful of principles that kind of govern how we go through and do our day-to-day task. So this is fund accounting, and fund accounting, we've added in fund and books. So I'm going to talk about that here as well, but fund accounting is a single accounting entity, company, or set of books with its own assets, liability, income, and expense accounts. So when you're talking about fund accounting, you're creating these reports for these funds. Now, we've added in the ability to change the word from book to fund and vice versa. There was definitely confusion that has been running around for years where people would confuse the word fund in contribution with the word fund in finance. So to clear that up, we've converted the word from fund to book in the finance module and given those who want the opportunity to convert it back an option to do so. And I'll show that here when I get to creating accounts. So it is fund accounting. It's all of these accounts tied together for one book, and you can create reports based on that. Every church is going to work on a finance year, or every organization or business that brings in money and has bills will work on a finance year. This will consist of 12 consecutive months. You have the option of calendar year or non-calendar year. These finance years are going to run from January 1st through December 31st. And lots of churches and organizations and companies, they even use a non-calendar year so that their closing of books don't interfere with their busy season. So an example of that is August 1st through July 31st. And when you have a non-calendar finance or fiscal year, it's referred to by the end date of the year. So if you are August 1st through July 31st, August 1st, 2023 through July 31st of 2024, you would call that the 2024 finance year. This is double entry bookkeeping. So the basic principle of the standard accounting system is that there's always at least 2 accounts on every single transaction. So there's debits and credits, and the debits and credits must balance. And here's my example here. When you do a deposit, it's made money. When you do a deposit, it's done with money that goes into an asset account, but there's offset accounts, and you may have more than one offset account. These are going to typically be income accounts when you're doing deposits, but it could be a dedicated account or it could be an equity account, depending on how sophisticated you are when you're working with finance. But most people are just going to use income accounts. They'll have the asset account, and they'll have one or more income accounts when they're doing deposits. So, hey, Gordon, let's stop just 1 second and do a quick audio check. I want to make sure that everybody can hear me. So if you guys could post in the question window. Okay, you guys can hear me. Okay, sounds like that was just a little glitch there or something. Thank you. Okay, so double entry bookkeeping, then we use cash accounting. Typically, most churches are going to be cash accounting, but when you talk about, accounting and finance, there's also the possibility that you're doing accrual accounting. So congregations usually work on cash accounting. Income is recorded and recognized when money is received. Expenses are recorded and recognized when the money is spent. That's how I believe churches should work. Accrual accounting can kind of get you in trouble, and that's why you see businesses lots of times. They end up in a situation, all of a sudden they're bankrupt. That's because they've been using accrual accounting and things have kind of gotten away from them. It's easier to track how money comes into and goes out of your church. It's easier to explain balances to your congregation. You know exactly where you are on that day. There's no backing out accrual numbers or figuring things out. You know, you enter it when it happens, then you're good. And it's safer since you won't run into cash flow problems when several accounts come due at once. So account structure. Let's go through account structure. Most of you guys are probably familiar with this, but Shepherd Staff uses a 9-digit account number for each and every account. Each portion of the account number represents a different aspect of the account. The first 2 digits of the account number represent fund/book for this account, so it's 01. So the third digit represents the account type. So there's 6 different account types, but there's 7 numbers: assets, liability, equity, income, expense, dedicated. So there's 6 different account numbers. I am unsure. If anybody knows why there's no number 4, let me know. I've been here all these years. I have no idea why there's not a number 4, but it's 1, 2, 3, skip 4, 5, 6, 7. The digit following the first dash represents your major group. So these accounts are grouped together. It's for reporting purposes. So the numbers after the dash, they represent your major group. It's your first type of grouping. There's major group, minor group, there's responsibility code, and all of a sudden the other one skips me. There's a 4th one. It is church body code. So there's 4. Most churches use major group and then they use minor group. And then some churches use church body code and responsibility code. When you're talking about church body code, you are saying that, hey, this is mostly for the denomination. That's why we're grouping with church body code. When it comes to responsibility code, that's usually inside your church, and you're saying, hey, this individual or this organization is responsible for these accounts. So there's 4 of them: major group, minor group, church body, and responsibility code. The digits following the second dash represents the minor group or a subcategory for this account. The minor groups are subgroups of the major group and only exist under the major group. And then the last number is going to be the sequence. The digits following the last dash represent the sequence number. This number makes this account unique for other accounts of the same funder book, account type, major group, or minor group. So this is the full account number. This is fund number 1, so it's inside this first funder book. Account type 5, telling us it's an income account. It is major group 10, minor group 2, and sequence 3. So this is the 3rd account inside of minor group 2, inside of major group 10 of our income accounts inside of our first fund. So let's go ahead and account types. And the first account type is asset accounts. Assets are what your congregation owns. There's 2 types of assets. There's current and there's fixed. Keep it simple here. And the current is going to be money in checking and savings account. It could be certificates of deposits, and it also could be stocks. And there's also your fixed accounts, which are building, land. I might have a 3rd one here, and equipment. So let's go back into the software. I'm going to show you how to add accounts in the new software. So let's go here and go back to Shepherd Staff. There we go. Okay, so when you go back into Shepherd Staff, there's going to be accounts across the top, and there's going to be these different options running down the left-hand side. So there's our accounts tree, and the accounts tree is this way of visually seeing your accounts all together. So instead of seeing them like in a grid, you're actually seeing them in this tree form. And you can switch to a different book. You can go through search. You can say, hey, include the inactive ones, and you can also sort by name. So when you're inside this view, you'll see running down the left-hand side, assets, liability, equity, income, expense, and then dedicated down at the bottom. Okay, so this is a visual view. There's also action buttons on the right-hand side. So there's activity, add, edit, and more. Depending on which account you click on, the action buttons will be different on the right-hand side. So if I'm on here, actually if I'm on asset, then activity doesn't show up. But then if I go to the account, then activity shows up at that point in time so that I can view the activity for this account. I can also create a transaction. If I go down to income, then budget will show up and I'll be able to view or edit the budget at this point in time. So there's also the nuance of having the color here. The ones that are green are our bank accounts. So they can be treated like bank accounts where you can create transactions like checks out of them. So that's our account tree. Then there's all accounts, which is going to show us all of our accounts. You'll be familiar with this view. It has our standard area here at the top with our search boxes. We've got 2 search boxes. They give you the option to do and or, and you can search by the columns that are black here at the top. So those are the ones that you can search by. And with this, of course, you can search by name and number, responsibility code, your major groups and minor groups. Now I'm gonna jump down to books, then I'm gonna double back to asset here just a second. I'm gonna show you guys how to add an asset account. So underneath books are our books. So we use funds for the last 20, 30 years, not quite 30 yet, but we use funds for the longest time, but now you'll have the option to use books or use the word funds, just depending on what you want to do. So inside of here, there's the show box here at the top, and that allows you to pick one of the different views here inside of this view, or one of the different options here inside of this view. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click add, and this is general operations. So that's the book where all our accounts go together. So add book number 2, and then say I was the type of church that wanted all of my dedicated accounts in a different book. So it could be dedicated fund or dedicated books, and this was a collection of all of those accounts. I could then save that, and then that would add that book into this list or that fund into this list, and then I could switch using the switch button down here at the lower right to switch between those books. And switching means that I see different accounts here within the view. So we've already heard from a customer that said, no, these are not books, these are funds. If you'd like this to remain funds, what you do is you go to tools and settings, and then you go to settings, and then you switch it from book to fund, and then save it. Then it gives you this warning, this message, and it says, hey, you have changed the term used for a set of books. This change will not take effect until you exit and restart Shepherd Staff. And you say, okay. Then when you exit and restart, it'll update everything. I want to show one other option. There's your startup book, which means this would be your default book. So let me close Shepherd Staff. I'm not going to back up right now, and then reopen Shepherd Staff. There we go. There we go. Okay, then when we go back into finance, it'll say accounts. It'll say funds throughout the software. And then I would have the choice, if I had a default fund, I could select that. And that's just the one that is defaulted throughout the software. Okay, so let's go back to accounts and let's add in an asset account. So there's several places throughout the software that you can add in a new asset account. So I think there'll be lots of times customers will go to their desired account type and then click the add button down at the bottom. So you click add, and I'm going to, let me pull up my notes here. There we go. I am going to add an account called secondary checking. So I'm going to say secondary checking. Then from there, I'll be able to select one of the major groups that's in the list. I can select a minor group from there. Since this is checking and the account is at the Central Trust Bank, I'm going to put it under checking, and then it'll filter my list of sequences, only giving me the sequences that are available. I can say that this is a bank account, which will allow me to use it as a bank account through the software and basically treat it as the asset part of these transactions. Here's our other groupings. You'll state whether it's active or inactive. If you're transferring a balance from another institution, you can enter in a beginning balance. So if you're not going to create a transaction to put the balance into this account, then you can enter in a beginning balance. A thing to note about beginning balances that in this version of the software, beginning balances can be changed up to the point that you create the first transaction within this account. So if you are past that point, then you would use a journal entry to make beginning balance corrections. So then at that point, if this is an account that's coming from another system, another institution, then you could say override the EFT number. So EFTs are something that we're tracking just a little bit different in this version. Override your check numbers, and then you can override your deposit number. So I'm going to go ahead and say save at this point in time. Then that will save this account here in the system, and then I could do a deposit to put money into that account. I could also, since I haven't created a transaction, I could also go in and change the beginning balance at this point. So that's how you'll add an asset account. Let's go in and let's go back to our slideshow. Let's discuss liabilities. Liabilities are what you owe. So these are either short-term debt or long-term debt, to keep it real simple. There's going to be payroll taxes for those that use Shepherd staff for their payroll. There's healthcare savings accounts, there's offerings from other congregation, and there's also credit card debt. So we've added in the ability to kind of more, or it's a little easier in this version of the software to manage credit cards. And we're going to show that as part of our transactions as well. But we've added credit card debt here now. You shouldn't really be carrying credit card debt too long because there's interest, but you can track it and kind of keep an eye on it in this version better than you could in prior versions. Long-term debt, there's mortgages and car loans. So let's go back into Shepherd staff, and we're going to create liabilities. So you could go to liabilities and you can click add down here at the bottom. I'm going to click add, and then I'm going to add in two different accounts. So I'm going to say a CC credit card. And then I'm going to say major group. Now, my major group doesn't exist right now. So I look at my drop list and it's got payroll tax deductions and payroll deductions. So I'm going to click on the pencil and I'm going to add in number 3, which is debt. And I'm going to click add. And then at that point, I can click select. This is also the area where I can modify names that have been in the system for a time period, and I can remove names that I no longer need. So when we get to the end of this training, we're going to take a look at the chart of accounts report, and I'm going to urge everybody, hey, review your chart of accounts, and you might even need to clean up your categories here in the system that are major groups and minor groups. So we'll click select, then, so that's debt, and then we're going to add a minor group of credit card debt. And actually, I'm going to click pencil, credit card debt. Add, and then I'm going to select that. From there, there's going to be sequence, and I'm going to do 01. I don't typically use 00, but there's nothing that prevents you from using the major group 00 and the minor group 00. When it comes to your major group and minor groups, if you've only got a small number of accounts, you don't have to create a complex grouping system. Like it doesn't have to be real complex. The more accounts you have, the more it beckons having these major groups and minor groups. So it's not required to have them and utilize them. It just helps you understand your reporting better. So I'm going to say this is a credit card, so this is a charge account. And when I check this as a charge account, whenever I get ready to create transactions, this account will be available for me to be able to create transactions with. And I can override my charge account number. So I'm going to say add multiple, and then I'm going to click save. And then it takes me, it erases the information that isn't required for this account, or isn't required. It erases information that could be conflicting for this account. So it puts it in the same major group and minor group, but it's a new account, so it'll need a name, and it'll need a new sequence. So we're going to say that this account is Ford Credit. Okay. And then at that point, I can select my sequence. And actually, I want to put Ford Credit in the debt major group, but I'm going to add in, underneath debt, I have 00 debt and 01 credit cards. Then I'm going to click the pencil here, and I'm going to create another group because I think the card debt is different than just my credit card debt. So add car loan, select, then I'm going to call that 01 here. So I'm going to separate those two. Even though they're inside the same major group, they are different in different minor groups. I'm going to uncheck add multiple, and I'm going to make sure to use save. This floppy disk, we have it in other parts of the software, but anytime you see that floppy disk, you're going to want to click save, and it'll save your information that you've created so you don't lose anything. Floppy disk means you need to save so you don't lose any information. Okay, and then it adds that account here into our system. Okay. Okay, let's go back to our slideshow. So we have liabilities. Then number 3 is going to be equity. Equity accounts, they balance the accounting equation. So assets equals liabilities plus equity. And most people understand assets. Most people understand liabilities. Equity, it gets a little fuzzy at times. And it's just the balancing part of what's going on. In my mind, to kind of keep it simple. So examples are owner's equity and earned income. If your accounting equation is out of balance, then your system's out of balance. So inside of Shepherd Staff, when you're running the balance sheet report, we keep it in balance, but some people manage their equity. Just depends on the person. We do suggest using equity under the supervision of a CPA, somebody who understands equity. It takes people a little while to understand the whole concept of equity and how it works within your fund or book within the system. So if you're going to use it, just consult with somebody who's knowledgeable about equity accounts. Okay, next is income accounts. We deal with these all the time. So whenever you are recording your offerings, this is going to be a tracking account that allows you to record the revenue brought into that account throughout the year. These accounts are budgeted, and examples are offerings, interest earned on bank accounts, or I guess you could say savings accounts or any accounts, rental property, and these also zero out at the end of the year. So when it comes to the income accounts, it's building all year long, and then when you get to the end of the year, they zero out and you start over. So that when you start 2024, they'll start building all year long as well, and you can see at the end of the year how much income you brought in. So we're going to switch back to Shepherd Staff, and let's see here for income accounts. I am going to go to income. I'm going to click add. And I'm going to name this rental property. Okay. And the major group is going to be property, and I said create property. So I don't have anything related to property, and I don't want to get this intermingled with offerings, but I could put it under other income. How would I do that? I'll put it under other income. Select other income, and then I can put it under other income here. And then sequence would be 0. Actually, I don't like that. So I'm going to do other income, and then I'm going to say apartment. So it's distinguished on our chart of accounts. There we go. Other income, apartment. This is going to be the first account inside of this new minor group inside of other income. I'm going to go to save. Then that's going to show my income account. Let's go to expense accounts. There we go. Okay, so under expense accounts, these are kind of like the opposite side of the coin when it comes to what's going on with between income and expense. You're going to use your statement of income and expense to compare the two. Lots of you guys use the treasurer's report, where you can use an income statement. But on one side, you have the money that you brought in, and on the other side, you have the money that's going out. So this is a tracking account, and it records spending during the fiscal year. So there's budgeted accounts. So these are also budgeted accounts, and you usually have your income budget versus your expense budget, so that at the start of the year, you kind of have a picture of where you're going. And at the end of the year, you compare what you brought in and what you spent to your budget, kind of see how your plan went. Examples are salaries, materials for church programs, office supplies, utilities, and these also zero out at the end of the year. So we'll go back to Shepherd Stat. We'll go to expense, and we've showed the add button here quite a few times. Why don't we go to the accounts tree, and in the accounts tree, I'll go under expense, and then we'll go church expenses, and then we'll go miscellaneous. And the account that I want to add is bank fees. So I could go miscellaneous here. When I have miscellaneous selected, I can say add, and this is going to fill in my major group, fill in my minor group, and I'm going to call this bank fees. And this is going to be sequenced since this already has accounts in it. 1 through 8 are already taken. I'm going to select 9, and then I'm going to save it. This, since all of these numbers are unique, it prevents things from overlapping and duplicating in some weird way. Money is not mixed into other accounts. Everything is going to have a unique, everything should have a unique name, but also the system's going to guarantee you have a unique number. So I'm going to say, I'm going to use add multiple here because I'm going to add one more. So I'm going to say save. Then I'm also going to add Jack's computer repair. And that's going to be under church expenses, miscellaneous as well. And the add multiple just allows you to carry forward and save a few clicks as you're creating these accounts. So I'm going to say save, and then I'm going to click finish since that was my last account. Then when I'm under miscellaneous, I can see bank fees and I can see Jack's computer repair. If I need to edit, I can edit. I can also move accounts as well. So when I'm inside the tree, I can, click on the account, click on move, and I can move this account to a different major group, and I can move this account to a different minor group. So if I wanted to say, hey, I really want this under support staff, and I want this under support expenses, I could then move this account to that different major group and that different minor group. So we're hoping that that allows people to kind of speed up rearranging their chart of accounts. Instead of having to go in and edit every single account, you can just use the move button, tell it where you want it to go, and then it jumps you into that location. Now, those major groups and minor groups would need to be in place before you did that, but that's just a way to speed up that process. Okay, and then the next account type is going to be dedicated accounts. And dedicated accounts are money reserved for a specific purpose. An example is like a memorial. Not every church uses dedicated accounts, but lots of churches use dedicated accounts. Dedicated accounts are a kind of like a special purpose account. They really only exist in Shepherd staff. They reside on the right-hand side of the accounting equation. They are dedicated accounts, so they are similar to equity, or some people would just simply say they're equity. In 9.0, we've added the ability to budget these accounts. So these are budgeted accounts. We have in and out. So when I'll show budgeting here in just a few minutes, but you'll be able to say, hey, this is part of our budget or this is not part of our budget. So there's been lots of people who've wanted to be able to budget their dedicated money. Now, I will also say the opposite side of that coin, before we even get too far into this, is that there's going to be lots of people who do not want a budget dedicated account. They'll consider that, hey, this money is reserved or restricted, and that's not part of our budget. So you guys as financial people, as the treasurers, the bookkeepers, you'll make that decision on whether or not you budget your dedicated accounts. But for those that want to do it, the option is now there. It's not required, but those that want to can. The balances do carry over to the new year. So these are like equity accounts or like liability accounts. So you'll be able to carry the budget forward year to year to year. So all that money that's in that memorial is there until you spend it. Balances do show on the balance sheet. So assets equals, I showed the equation earlier, assets equals liability plus equity. Dedicated accounts are considered a part of equity, so they have their own section on the balance sheet, and your system will be in balance. Okay, so I'm going to add in a dedicated account. Here we go, dedicated, and you'll notice in the dedicated view, it has, like this account is in here, but it has in and out. So number, name, beginning, in, out, change, current, then your major groups and minor groups. Each one of the views is designed in a way that it presents information that is relevant to that account type. So assets, you're only seeing information that makes sense with assets. Liabilities, which are, can't say similar to assets, but kind of have the same core purpose. Equity, very similar, but then when you get to income, we're including budgets and showing you the difference between the activity and the budget. And when you're expense, you're seeing activity and the difference between the budget. Then dedicated, something very similar, but you're not seeing the budgeted information here. We do have a view with the dedicated account budget information, so we'll be showing that as well. So let me add a dedicated account here. Let's see, I have a couple here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say add down here at the bottom. I'm in dedicated accounts, add, and then I'm going to add one called scholarship fund, and I'm going to put this in 00. Then I'm going to say this is sequence 1, and then I'm going to add another one. This is property management, property improvement. I'm going to put that in 00 as well, and this is account 2. Then click save, then finish. So it'll create those accounts. They'll be here in the system, and then whenever we create deposits, so I've got to get used to saying receipts. When we create receipts, we'll deposit that money into these accounts, and then they'll have a running balance, and we'll be able to budget them if we so choose. Okay, so I do want to show underneath funds the different options inside this view, and then we'll do a quick review here. So current balance is the current balance. It's got assets, liability, dedicated income and expense, and equity. So you can see the current balances for all of those accounts inside of that type summed up. Then there's current activity, which is the activity for the current year. And I guess you could say that all of these show options are going to be for the current finance or fiscal year. So current activity, this is the current activity for 2023. And let me expand this here. So at the upper right-hand side of your favorites panel, your favorites bar here, is going to be your finance year. And these numbers showing underneath books are for that finance year. So that's current activity. Bank balance less dedicated is all of your bank balances, all of your dedicated money, and then the difference between the two. There's budget progress for today, and there's budget progress for the year. So you may have something, you may be comparing the budget as of today, or you may be comparing the budget for the whole year, and that's the difference between the two. So progress to date means as of, and today's date is the 23rd, so as of the 23rd, and then when you go to budget progress for the year, it's as of for the whole year. So that's the difference between the two. Okay, so let's go back to our quick review. So in most cases, a single set of books is the way that churches go. There are some that have multiple books, but that's really up to the person who's in charge of your finance. Most churches only have one set of books, a single fund or book. If you are considering creating a second fund or book, consider creating additional dedicated accounts first. And the reason why we suggest that is when it comes to reporting, it really needs to be an intentional hard line when you decide to create an additional fund or book at that point in time. So it may be, hey, you just want that money dedicated at that point in time. But it's something that you can talk to your church about. You can give us a call. We can discuss that. But for most churches, everything is centered around one set of books. Simpler may be better. We really advise people not overcomplicating their chart of accounts at first. It is, I'm going to say, way easier. It's always easier to add accounts later than to delete accounts or completely start over. So there's times that people have this extremely complex chart of accounts. It's hard to understand. And then they're like, well, how can I make it simpler? Well, it's more difficult to make it simpler than it is to start out simple and be in that state. But you can combine accounts. You can use a chart of accounts to kind of like the line item and kind of figure out, you can use the chart of accounts report to kind of line item and figure out where you want to be and if it's reasonable. And then you can inactivate accounts at the beginning of a finance or fiscal year and stop using those and then use other accounts. We do caution you in renaming accounts. It's extremely dangerous because of the historical impact. So if an account is used for one thing for a decade, please don't rename it. It becomes problematic at that point in time. Create a new account and activate the old account and move forward. Okay, there are 6 different account types. There's assets, liabilities, equity, we skipped number 4, then there's income, expense, and dedicated accounts. And then account groupings are a way to organize accounts into like categories. There are 4 types of groupings: major, minor, church body, and responsibility codes. So it's quite a bit there. So let's take a closer look. Let's go back into Shepherd Staff, and inside Shepherd Staff, here's our software. We've created accounts. We already have accounts in here. So let me reverse things a little bit. I'm going to show the chart of accounts report now, and then I'm going to show budgets. So underneath other reports, this is where we're going to go to access reports going forward. So those people that upgrade, you'll see reports and you'll be accessing them here. And then the chart of accounts report, which is a report that we had in the prior version. And usually you're just going to use it when you're trying to massage and move accounts into the places that you want them. So chart of accounts, what you see here is a lot of what you're going to see in all of our reports. So chart of accounts report, there's going to be the funds. You'll be able to filter by these options. You can select them all, you can unselect them all. You can also go in here and click to decide which ones you want. I don't have any accounts in dedicated fund too, so I'm just going to uncheck that. But then from there, you can select the types that you want, the account types, whether or not you want to filter by responsibility codes or church body codes. Then you can select the formats, and you can select whether or not you want active, inactive, or both. So I don't have any inactive accounts in this chart account, so I can just say both. Excuse me. So underneath format, there's two column no groupings, there's standard, and then there's accounts only no grouping. Now, two column is definitely two columns. So you've got a set running, or you have a set of accounts running down the first panel, and it kind of loops from the bottom back up in the set of accounts running down the second column. Standard and accounts only, that's just basically one column running down the page. So we'll start with two columns, print, which is preview. Then from there, you can see those two at that point in time. And whenever you're getting ready to kind of clean up your chart of accounts, you can print this out and you can discuss with your team, hey, we want this account, we don't want this account. You can kind of work through and strike things out if you'd like at that point in time. Be like, hey, we're gonna take this. You could draw an arrow and be like, hey, money's now gonna go into this account type. So I'm gonna close that. That's two column, and that is grouped together by the major and minor groups. You could say no grouping. This, I guess, technically is grouping by account type, but it's going to be in order by your numbering system. And then you can kind of take a look at it and see, okay, well, yeah, this is what we're working with here, and whether or not this is good or it's not good. So let me close that. That is the chart of accounts report for two columns. Then there's standard, print. And this is going to group by major and minor group as well, but it's going to be all the way across the page. I kind of like the two column, and I prefer that over the one column. But if you've got responsibility in church body codes, this may be the one that works best for you when it comes to rearranging your chart of accounts. And then there's standard only, There's account only, no groups. And then this would provide that additional information. So there's benefits to each report. You just, if you're rearranging your chart of accounts, you'll need to pick the report that works best for you. So let me close that. Then let's transition into budgets. So budgets are going to be an estimate of the income and expense money that you're going to bring in the upcoming year. Most churches are working on budgets now or have already completed their budgets for the upcoming year. But you can take budgets and put them into the software, and then when you run your mostly reports that have income and expenses on them, but this also will be dedicated now. You'll be able to create those budgets and then compare them to the amount of money that's coming in and be able to see how you're trending, if this is going well or if this is not going well, this is as expected or this is not expected. Give you a chance to adjust before things, I guess, completely run off the rails. So we're going to go to plan analyze. And plan analyze is where I'm going to say majority of the work probably is going to happen when it comes to budgeting. Still a little early to tell. People may go to the accounts view, click on an income account, and then manage their budget from there. What I like about the plan analyze view is you get a chance to see all of the budgets one after another. And anybody who's done budgeting, seeing them together is powerful at that point in time. You can also filter by year. You could go in and filter by any of the columns that have a bolded black header. So that's number, name, year, total. And actually, yeah, it is filter. So the word search and filter are not the same word for lots of reasons. But when you have search and filter, it looks like this is search and filter combined. So, and then once you search, you can click the little clear search to return back to your full view before you make changes. So I'm going to collapse my favorites panel. And then over here on the right-hand side, there's two buttons. There's auto fit, and then there's a reset grid option. So I can auto fit and it'll kind of squeeze everything together as much as possible. If you have large budget numbers, it may still scroll off of your screen to the right, and you may have to scroll, but my numbers are pretty small right now, so it's pretty good. So inside of here, I'm going to manually add a budget. So I'm going to click on the general fund, and the total actuals for the current year is 134,000. So I'm going to use that as the basis for my my fictitious budget here. But I can double click on the row, and it brings up this budget window. I can also click on this row and click on edit if I'd like. Then it will bring up this budget window. So I'm just going to say accounts, and it's going to give me this drop down box, which will allow me to navigate throughout the view. You'll notice that there's sort by account number here at the top. Excuse me. And right now, the list is sorted by name. So the way that this sort works is if it's unchecked, it's sorted by name. And if you check it, then it sorts by number. So general is at the top if you're sorting by number. So the window behind here, I was sorting by number. So when I clicked on general, I pulled up general at that point in time. But you can decide if you want to sort by name or sort by number. It's just a preference. I'm going to sort by number since that turns the option on. And then once it's sorted, you can navigate up and down your list, and it just kind of goes through your list. So now I'm down on youth. So you can go through and use the information that's provided. We expanded this window to just provide more detail, additional detail. Now, in the prior version, there was information in there, but it wasn't as robust as this information here. So we've got our yearly totals, change from prior year actuals, prior year budget, actuals less budget, giving you the difference. And then you can also see all of those numbers broke out by month down here at the bottom. So as you're going through and you're doing your review, you don't have to leave this window to make a determination on what you want to do with this individual budget. You should have all the information that you need. I guess you don't have 5-year information, but you would have all the information you need in relationship to the prior year and comparing that information. So there are different calculation methods. So I'm going to say this is, we're in general fund, prior year actual was $358,000. 358 divided by 12, 29,000. Okay, so let's say that next year we're going to have an increase and it's 30,000, 360,000, and we want to calculate equal monthly amounts. So I can type the amount up here, I can select equal monthly amounts, and then it dumps that information into this area down here at the bottom. So the budget for 2023 would be January, 30,000, February 30,000. And if I like those numbers, all I would do is click save at that point in time. If I didn't like those numbers, I could change them. So I could either go a different equal monthly amount, or I could tweak the individual ones to get them to where I wanted them to be. So and say this was 40,000 for the month of March. And then I could click save, and it would save that change. And then I just would work through budget after budget at that point in time. So equal monthly amounts is really popular. They kind of use the total that they expect, and they just spread it out over 12 months. But some churches do dig down deeper, and they have a monthly amount for every single account. It's really up to the user, but equal monthly amounts is the most popular that I've seen over the years. There is based on prior year actuals. Now mine doesn't have any prior year actuals. Oh, this one does. Then at that point in time, I can increase up or down by a percentage. So I can say, okay, well, I want to increase by 2%, or I could do a negative, I think it's going to be down, not 52, but 5%. And then I could go down in percentage at that point in time. So I could say prior year actuals. I could say prior year budget, which works on the same system. It looks at the prior year number, and then it allows me to adjust based on a percentage. If I don't put anything in there, then it's just a 0% increase or decrease. I could also say copy last year's budget or copy last year's actual, so I can use the exact same item going forward. And then once I've made my changes, you just want to save, and each time you get done, you just want to click save. And there is an option to advance on save. So I'm saying, hey, I want to go to the next account in my drop list. When I click save, advance on save, and it just keeps jumping me down one after the other. Hopefully this speeds up the process just a little bit. The prior version was pretty simple and straightforward, but we think we have a couple little things here that's gonna kind of just allow it to jump forward. So I'm going to edge over into the question box here just for a second and answer hi Karen, hi Carol, and hi Linda. Hi ladies. So right here at the top it says year 2023. I probably should have switched that to 2024 and then clicked, I could double click on it. Then this would be for 2024 at that point in time. So 2024 income budget. And we really are at the point where, hey, this is getting late October, early November, and we're looking at entering in those 2024 budgets if we haven't already. So you are correct. So to be able to do that, you would change the year here at the top to the year that you want, and then edit the budget at that point in time. Okay, hopefully that answers your guys' question there. Okay, so that is just a single budget, and lots of people just go through and, hey, click on this one, make the change, click on this one, make the change. There's only so many accounts, a couple hours later, you're done at that point in time. Or you print out one of the reports, you distribute that, people submit what they think the budget would be, the treasurer then, or somebody approves at that point in time, and then the information is entered into the system. So there's also the budget import export, and I'm going to switch this to 2024 now instead of waiting so that we get the right information here. So budget import and export is literally just that. So it gives you the option to export your budget, and you could technically export 23, modify 23, then import it as 24. But you could also just export 24, modify it, then import it as 24 as well, even though 24 would be blank at this point in time. So you would say export, you could select the fund that you want. Everything in here is a general fund. You could say income, expense, income and expense, dedicated in, dedicated out. And I want to show a dedicated budget here in just a second. So I'm going to say income and expense, then I'm going to double back and do a single dedicated accounts budget, since that's a big change that we made. And there's going to be some people who want to use it. You could then include in active accounts, and then you could say pre-fill with current fiscal year's budget, and then say export. And this is going to port it out to, this is going to port it out to Excel. And most of us use Excel. There are some people who use other products, but the majority of us use Excel. At that point, you would decide to enter in the total budget, and you may enter in monthly amounts. When you import, you're going to import either total budgets or you're going to import monthly amounts. It's going to be one or the other. So in the sense of time here, I'm just going to type in a few numbers: 36,000, 360,000, and then let's say missions, 21,000. Down arrow, youth fund, 5,000, and building fund, 17,000. And then vacation Bible school, and I'm going to spread this column out here. And then vacation Bible school, 900. Okay, and then you would just literally go down the list, typing in your budgets. This action is an inaction, and the expenses, of course, is money going out. So if salary is, the majority of this, I guess. So let's say 240,000. Then you can type in the rest of those numbers. Now, when you save this, it exports as a CSV file. So I'm going to go to File and Save As, and I'm going to import as an XLSX file. So it'll do XLS and XLSX. So it'll do the two versions that we have out there for Excel that Microsoft produces. Now, even third-party software or other software that create files also create XLS and XLSX files. So you should be able to import those as well. So I'm going to browse and I'm going to save this to my desktop. Okay, save it. Then once it's saved, then I'm going to go to import and I'm going to say it's for 2024. I'm going to say override existing budgets, and I'm going to say import by yearly total. Now, if I don't import by yearly total, then I'm importing monthly at that point in time. So then I'm going to import. Oh, wait. Yeah, I'm going to import, click the file, click open, and then I'm just going to wait for a second, and it's going to notify me. I got a few processes running right now, but it's going to notify me that the import has been completed successfully. So budget reports, budget records updated successfully. So then I click OK, and then I can go to budgeting, make sure I'm on 2024. It's going to show me the total budgets. It's going to break those out into monthly amounts, and then it's going to be in the system. Then at that point in time, I can go to reports and I could look at, why don't we show budget worksheet? I didn't have that on the list, but I'm going to show that now. So then I could go to budget worksheet. I could say, hey, this is the fund I want, major group, minor group, responsibility code, church body. I could say, hey, the format that I want, it could be account types grouped by fund, funds grouped by account type, which I'm going to say account types grouped by fund. I could tell it the level of detail. I could say number the name or name the number. I'll have options, and this is very similar to what we saw in the prior version. I could say include inactive accounts, show existing next year's budget amounts, add space to write in the budget, and then I include accounts with no activity. So let's say include next year's budget amounts. And then I could page break if I wanted to on responsibility code and church body code. So then at that point in time, I could say print, which is preview. And then my report would come up at that point in time. So this is budget worksheet, and it allows me to see that budget information. I got 360,000 next year. Right now, our last year's actual was 300,500. Second time's the charm. $358,505 was last year's actual. So then this year's budget is 369,000, and year-to-date projections 224,000. So, and that's the budget worksheet. Okay. Okay, so that is the information that I have for this session. It looks like Kimberly has done a wonderful job keeping up on the questions that you guys have been asking. We will summarize all of the questions and post them on our Help Center. And we'll also post the videos on our Help Center as well. But if you guys have any questions right now, how do I delete an account? Hi, Donna. So with accounts, that's a really good question. So with accounts, that is an excellent question. So with accounts give you the ability, what is the red and green shading? Good question. So with accounts give you the ability to delete accounts that don't have activity. So you can delete those accounts. So you can go to that grid, click on the account, and click on delete. and it'll allow you to delete those accounts if they have no activity. Now, if those accounts have activity, then it's going to warn you. And there's a couple of warnings that kind of apply in situations like that, because if the item is actually being used, there's history that's involved. There could be a connection with the contributions module. So your financial secretary might be thinking to themselves, hey, I'm going to use this account this upcoming Sunday or Monday to record offerings. So there's a couple of roadblocks or stops involved. This account is referenced by finance activity or recurrent templates and cannot be deleted. So, and then also the fact that if it's tethered to a giving fund, that would also be a reason why you can't delete it. You can go to tools and settings, and we'll talk more about getting rid of financial data. There's going to be some cautions and some concerns, but you'll be able to clean up financial data and get rid of accounts at an appropriate time period. So, what is the red versus green shading? And I was on accounts and income, and the red versus green shading on income and expense, and this could be different depending on the view that you're on, but we're taking activities and budgets and we're subtracting the two, so we're not negative in the budget. Now, income's a little weird at times, like you're saying, hey, we brought in 134,000, we expected 369,000, the difference is 234, you're in the red. So it's not like you owe that money, but this is a signal like, hey, we're not where we thought we were going to be. You probably want to take a look at this. And then, of course, green means, well, we don't have a budget here, but the fact that it's 975 minus 0, it's 975, so we're in the green. We aren't under budget, I guess you could say at that point in time. Is the PowerPoint available to print? I can share the PowerPoint. Let's take a closer look. I'm just going to go over to this screen right here and save. Then I'll just drop the PowerPoint. This is the longest, let me just say this. This is the longest PowerPoint that I have because it has all of the kind of like introductory information that you kind of got to get out the way so that we're all on the same page. But I'll drop that PowerPoint in the window. So there's an area here that allows us to share files. And I will drop that in there right now. Downloads, not downloads, desktop. There it goes. Okay. Okay, and for those that want to take a download and just review the information, it's kind of at a high level, but those are, I'd say facts about Shepherd Staff. Okay, so upcoming webinars. Tomorrow is vendors and transactions. There'll be less background material tomorrow. It'll be more, hey, show you how to create vendors and transactions and run through the vendor and transaction reports and views. Then Wednesday, reports, and more reports. And then Friday is plan, analyze, tools, and settings. So those are the upcoming webinars. Let's see. Hi, Carol. There are year-to-date budget comparisons to actuals. Yes, that's part of our reporting. Hi, Marcia, and I really do hope I'm pronouncing your name right after all these years. So the file should be in your control panel. So you guys can't see my control panel, but there should be a handout section. So on your screen, there's a little box and it has an arrow at the upper part of it. And if you click that arrow, it expands this tray area. And inside there should be a handout section, which allows you to download the file. Once you've saved the PowerPoint, it should save to your downloads folder on your computer, and you'll be able to access it at that point in time. And it'll just use your PowerPoint viewer on your computer. Okay. Before everybody starts dropping off, I do want to thank everybody for attending. I really appreciate it. I know that change can be tough at times, and we've just basically redesigned the finance module and moved things around. So, you know, there's a lot of learning to take place. Hopefully we've got it pretty close to what it was before, but we'd love to hear your feedback. Feel free to reach out to us. Visit our help center. We'll upload these videos to the help center. We'll also put them inside of Shepherd Staff so that you guys can view them, and we'll go from there. So thank you so much, Debbie. All right, I will let you guys go unless you had any other questions. See you then, Jane. And I will talk to you soon. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.